So, second fix involves stripping and terminating. I'm not going to go over stripping techniques or anything like that. I suppose we'd have gone through a different video for that, but I might make it up. I might go through it when we get back into college as well. Here's one of our switches. Now that is an intermediate. I don't know why I've been given that. One swat, and that's fortunate. This is the right one. Technical packets. These are brand new. Open it up. Put that in the bin. Clean as you go. Makes sense. They always come with these little bolts. They're for fixing the socket. The switch on the front of here. They'll correspond. These bolts, the size of these will correspond to the size of these those threads. They're 3.5mm, 3.5mm switch screws, if you want to call them that. But they are bolts. There's nothing. There's no pointy end. They're flat and the same width along the shaft. On the reverse of here, we've got the common L1 and L2. This is actually a two-way switch, light switch, but we're doing a one-way. Only turns on one way. We're going to use common and L1. I'll start with the switch, just for the hell of it. Be very careful when you're stripping. So when you cut, you won't be able to see there, but you might find out that, like the earth conductor, the end of it here, because I've cut across it a little bit, that is extremely sharp. It's like a needle. You want to take off as much of the sheath as possible without cutting the conductors. And from here, I was like getting a fistful of cable and cutting. So what I've wasted, about 1 inch, or 25mm if you want, maybe a little bit more. Put in a bit. From here, I can terminate. Now these are single conductors, okay, so we're going to have to expose the copper. I'm going to double them over. So I can strip off about 17, no maybe not 7, maybe about 15mm. 15mm length. Got my pliers, double them over. Use these because it's going to be easier for all. Yes. Strip off about 15mm of the insulation. That's like on the neutral it's the blue, on the neutral. Generally, when it's the blue it's the neutral, but down here it's the actual switch live. We'll go through the proper terminology when we get back into college as well. Brown, this one's going to be parent live. The blue is going to be the switched live. So we're going to put a bit of brown sleeving on. Have I got any brown sleeving in hand? I'll just nip and get some. The brownest of all the sleeves. Right, for the switch live, a little bit of brown sleeving. You only going to need about 10mm. It's just an identification process. Make sure we're adhering to all the regulations. A little bit of brown sleeving. Now the earth is unsheathed, so what we have to do, put a bit of sheathing on that as well. Take that off. Well, there's nothing coming out there. We need to make sure we're going to make a connection to this. It's better practice. Pull back from where the earth sleeving stopped. Pull it back about 15mm again. Snip it. A little bit of wastage. That's because I like cut off a little bit of earth sleeving. No dramas. Now I've got some little connectors here which don't require screwing. Now it's just three-way Wago. I'm going to put that on the earth, flip these up, and we can put that the connector, the conductor, beg your pardon, straight in that hole, push it down, and that's terminated. In college, we don't have them because they cost an arm and a leg. But there's the earth, terminate, it's safe, not going to do anybody any mischief. And what we've got here, this is a plastic box with a later date. We need, somebody puts an earth switch plate on there, that's going to have to be earthed. We do need the earth there, don't even dream of cutting it off. Brown, parent live, in a one way, that goes into common. Common is at the top. The blue with the brown sleeving is our switch live, that goes into L2, which is underneath here. I'm going to hold that in, hold it down so it doesn't come out, and I'm screwing as I do it. Now, I don't know whether you heard that. That's like it's tight. Give it a little pull, make sure it is tight. I'm just going to give it a little nip. There we go. Last little one, just nip it up. It's be nice and tight. We double it over so it's got like a greater surface area. Remember, this is 1.5mm squared cable. We double it over. We've got twice as much. We've got like 3 mils worth of cable in there. They could make like a nice tight connection. Should last for years when you get it tight. Proper good installation methods. So there's my switch live into L1. Hold it in. I'm twisting, I'm turning the screw. Nice and tight that. There he is. Give it a little pull after you've tightened it up to make sure it's nice and tight. Comes out, obviously it's up tight. We don't want any copper on the outside of the terminal. That was the whole reasoning of only stripping off to like 15mm. Oh, look at that. Are you going in there or what? Have I got a duff box here? There you go. See what happens there. Oh wait, back box. Blow my neck. When these have been manufactured, there's a little bit of plastic over the hole where the thread is. So it's been a little bit of this tinker, making a cross thread. Good. These should go in extremely easily because the back box is a little bit duff. Knackered. There we go. He's going in nice and easy. I'll get another one out of the VR. There we go. Now the secret of doing these 3.5mm bolts, screw one side in about 80%, then do the other one, screw that in about 80%. Got a little bit of movement there. Now because this is plastic, if you screw it, then you screw and you screw and you screw and you screw. Because it's like you're screwing it into metal, it will pull the front of the switch in, because you're pulling metal on metal, and what's being pulled and stretched is the plastic. the plastic's going to lose, the PVC. That's what the plastic is, PVC, polyvinyl chloride. So you want to be really careful. Do one side 80%, and then what you'll realise is 80% is like somewhere really near anywhere. You might only need like a couple little half turns to finally nip it up. That's all I've done. There's the switch done. Right. Next thing, we'll do the sealing rows. Sealing rows, you probably find it the most difficult part. What was naughty? That was naughty. Come straight off, there we go. This cable's quite cold. Should always use the earth to strip. I used the neutral before. It was a bit naughty. Make sure you're not cutting through any of the conductors. A little bit of excess that's going in the bin. We've got all this length. We're not going to use all that because when we put our lamp holder on, it's all going to hit itself. So we don't want that. From here, I start dressing the cables and dress them in, get them ready to be terminated. So the brands, they're going to go into loop. So we get this out of the way. Get the browns on there. The blue coming from the DB is going to be our neutral. So neutral's on this side. So what I need to do, I need to go. Actually, if I'm looking, it'd be better if I dress them under there. Thank you for that. Get the blue over here. Get the browns under there. And the blue that's come up from the switch, that's going to our switch wire, that's going to go over to L over here. I'm dressing it in because I'm going to snip these and they're going to be quite short, but they need to be short. Well, they need to be the perfect length, realistically. There's only a couple of inches actually coming into the sealing rows. I'm going to strip off about 7mm just to expose the copper. You can use the wire strippers in the workshop. Doing the second fixing, it's like tidy. That's like the nicer part I always found doing electrical work. The blue that's coming from the switch, we've marked it brown down in the switch, so I need to do the same up in the top. Make sure you get the right blue. Make sure you're identifying the correct conductor. So get your fingers, I'm right-handed, so I always have this in my right hand. The screwdriver. Behind there, I'm going to put my fingers so they're pushing back to where these brass connections are. Because if you push too hard in, it's going to push all the guts out. So you need to be careful. Unscrew that a little bit. And if you cut it a length, you should drop in. You should unscrew it a little bit more. You should just drop in, and I can hold it. Nice and tight. You can hear it squealing a little bit. Do a little pull just to double check. But yes, that is tight. Like you said, the browns, they're going to loop. They're going to be our parent live. Just unscrew that. Do not take these screws out all the way. Whatever you do. In there, you. I'm going to hold them down. Hold the back as well. Nice and tight. Get the brown in. The brown that's actually come from the DB. Dress him in. Oh, tight. And and then the blue, the brown sleeving, which is our switch wire, goes into the well. Hold it in position, unscrew. There you go, it's dropped in. There's no copper on the outside of these terminations. Then a little pull on a spot above it. And we've got the two earths here unsheathed. I'm going to get a little bit of brown, get a little bit of green yellow sleeving. You don't need all of this, so I don't know, maybe 40 mil. You don't need a great deal because you don't have a lot of room. You've got to make sure there's going to be no compression of these cables. Put them on. Cover the bare copper and then dress that round. I'm going to cut this. The position that we cut these conductors is a little bit past, a little bit beyond the terminal. Up the top here is our brass terminal. So when I dress this round here, a little bit after the terminal is where we're going to cut, which is, I don't know, up there. Because the copper has to go inside, so that's the terminal. The copper has to go inside the terminal, but it doesn't want to come out the other side. If we can help it, we're going to keep all that exposed copper inside the terminals. That's the lives, the neutrals, the switch lives, anything that we're doing. We don't want any copper on shore whatsoever. Unscrewed that. Hold it in place because the earths like to work themselves out as you screw it down. So you got that 9, screw. So it like tries to wiggle out, hold it in position. There we go. It's all nice and neat, not a spot of bother. That should go over the top, and wherever the skirt is, bonsoir. You should go on like that. Don't over screw that, break it, plastic, you know what I mean. That leaves us with the mains. The mains is the stuff in the DB. So this box. Now there's a lighting circuit, so we put lighting circuits on 6-amp breakers. We've got the main switch here for the live and neutral. We've got these two individual breakers. One's a 16 amp, one's a 6 amp. So the 16 is for power, so sockets, stuff like that. 6 amps for lights. Boom, there's our lights. Strip this down. I'm going to get as much of that sheath off as possible. Whenever you're stripping and terminating, you want to make sure you get all the sheath off up to a point where like it just enters. So there's plenty of mechanical protection because that's what the sheath provides. Like minimal, mind you, something like a bit of metal encasing. It's still PVC, it's rubber, so it will be cut. It's easily cut through. We need to strip off as much of this sheath to expose the conductors, because we are going to cut the conductors down. We're going to dress this DB nicely. So once again, using the earth, strip. Yeah. Oh. As much of that sheath off as possible. And we're in a position rather to strip or to dress these individual conductors, and then we can energize it. But we ain't going to energize it. I'm not going to do it in here, but when we're in the workshop we will. Nice to do a job and see it all fired up and powered up. We will have it turned on. So what I've done, I've just put a little bit of spare behind the MCB. MCBs, miniature circuit breakers, that's what they're called. They're like the switches. Once again, a little bit past, a little bit beyond. Strip off about 20, up to 20 mil, maybe not that much. Double this over, doubling it over with our pliers. Dropping that in, screw it down, hold it in place so it actually does grip the copper. It's going to be nice and tight. A little pull, make sure it's tight. Do the neutral. So he's going to go over here. Now there are numbers and stuff in these DBs. They are important, very important, so corresponding our conductors. But for our use and our purpose, at the minute, it's not wholly important. Being able to put this job on the wall, following the method of marking it out, installing your components, installing your cable, these sort of like foundations, doing a first fix, then doing a second fix. That's what I want us to get down. So unscrew the blue and I put it on the neutral bar, holding it in, and just get them up there out of the way. Make sure it's nice and tight. Do a little pull, make sure it is tight. On this one, yeah, a little snippy do there. So I was going to have a little bit of spare. Put the earth sleeving over. And what I didn't do down on the switch, I'm going to do it here because I've got like all of the earth sleeving. I bent it over. The copper goes up to this point where it's bent. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to hold onto it and I'm going to pull back. I'm going to pull back and I'm going to cut what I'm gauging to be about 18 mil. When I push it down, there's a little bit of copper exposed there. Once again, pliers, double it over. Now whatever number you've put the neutral onto, you put the earth on the same, corresponding with conductors. If you want to know more about that, ask me when we get back into college and I'll happily explain it. Blue's on number 2, so I'm going to put the green and yellow on number 2. Get them in there, get them out of the way, and there we go. That's a one-way lighting circuit. Ceiling rose, switch, DB. DBs are always going to be fixed in the workshop, so you don't need to worry about fixing that on the wall. I'm at the point now I could do a couple of tests to make sure it's all safe. It's brand new, it's going to be okay. Big Al's done it, so it's going to be not a spot to bother. Be ready to bang a live test on. At this point, we would put a live test on and we'd do a functional test. Make sure when you flick the switch, light goes on, light goes off. Now the only thing to do next will be to remove the job, okay? But like I say, there's a proper process for doing everything. Everything's about technique. As long as you've got good technique, you're going to be all right. Technique of putting on the wall, just important technique, taking off the wall. You've got to make sure all of this, these components and tools and the fixings, they're going to be able to use for the next class and the class after that. Okay. Right boys, it's a one-way lighting circuit.